When I look into a mirror, I obviously recognize that the image looking back is of myself. Even with a terrible haircut or fantastical costume, I may become agitated or confused, but within a very brief amount of time, I'll recognize that in some way I'm looking at myself. That said, humans are one of a quite short list of animals capable of seeing that the person in the mirror is them. Welcome back to Get Smart with Rory, and today I'll be covering self awareness, but really self recognition, and specifically the mirror test. In the classic mirror test, or more formally, the mirror self recognition test, we take an animal while they're asleep, unconscious, and we put some kind of a mark on them, a sticker, some lipstick, what have you, on a place that they normally wouldn't be able to see. Then, when exposed to a mirror, if they investigate the mark, rub against it, try to get it off, it's considered a pass. We really like this test as a method of self recognition because we can see its progression with baby humans. That is, little babies might not recognize the mirror at all, and then as they get older, they see another human, and then finally, around 18 months, baby humans, when put a mark on, try to remove it, they rub the mark off, they seem to have actual self recognition and a sense of what they should look like, devoid of the mark. Now, when we try to apply this test more broadly, a couple of major issues should immediately become apparent. That is, most obviously, if an animal can't see, it's not going to pass a test based on looking in a mirror. For that matter, even animals with quite good eyesight, such as dogs, may have another sense which they focus on more primarily. In that instance, scent. A dog may recognize its own scent where it marked a bush, but not see itself in a mirror because it doesn't care about sight as much as we do. And even all of that aside, we run into more complicated issues. Elephants, for instance, are perfectly capable of passing the test. We know, we've seen it, it's well documented. But often with individual experiments, they still seem to fail. It seems that, as far as we can tell, various marks that we put on them just don't rise to the level of being noteworthy to them. And then we have other animals, such as silverback gorillas, as an example, who, when seeing another member of their species, go very angry and become too aggravated to notice if it's themselves. Or at least we should say that it would hinder the ability, particularly when we're changing some aspect of what they look like. And then, more comically, we have animals like manta rays who will expose their bellies and do somersaults and all sorts of activities that we don't see from them when they're on their own or among other manta rays. But they don't really seem to care about the mark that we place on them. So is that a pass, a fail, inconclusive? In addition to humans, magpies, the great apes, elephants, and even a couple of fish and dolphins are able to pass the test. But the list is very small, really just a tiny, tiny portion. But does that matter? Is it a good test to use with animals? And for that matter, even in its best, most optimistic state, the mirror test really is the mirror self recognition test, not the mirror self awareness test. It's fairly easy to imagine an animal who, passing the test, able to recognize some flaw in their feature, still doesn't really have any sense of who they are. For what it's worth, I define self-awareness in simple terms as having some sense of the personal pronouns, that is, I, me, myself, we in the plural, and with a little bit more nuance, having some ability of self-reflection, introspection, some ability to find yourself on a deeper level outside of environmental context. So, as said, maybe an animal can see itself and recognize itself, but still not be able to define what makes them different from any other bird, fish, what have you. A little bit more complicated, a little bit harder to imagine, we can think of some alien out in the universe who has a firm sense of self-identity. They know how they would react in different situations and respond not just based on environmental factors, but with foresight and thinking about what makes them them, capable of independent character development. And yet, for whatever reason, this animal doesn't strongly identify with what they see in the mirror or with any other sensory data. They fail the self-recognition test, but still have self-awareness. So that all brings us to the big question of, who do you imagine when you think of yourself? Does it match the image you see in the mirror? How's it different? And insofar as it matches the mirror, how much does that visual image of yourself tie in to your greater overall self-identity? I'd love to hear what you think. A great place for that, of course, is in the comments down below. It really helps the channel to grow and just stay more interesting. And if you enjoyed the video, as always, like, subscribe, click the notification bell. You know the deal. And until next time, see ya.